which is about administration in dual right. Before starting with it, I just wanted to say a few words about why this session. Dual right has been out for about 3 years or so now, and there's been a lot going on with dual right, and it's been improving over these 3 years. But one thing that I've always feel with dual right is that, well, because it brings together FNO and everything else dynamics, other Dynamics 365 solutions, and also the Power Platform Dataverse. We find many times in the dual right implementations, we find that we have very good people at FNO, very good FNO admins, and really great Dataverse Power Platform admins. But on a dual right implementation, we need either teams working very closely together, or someone that can bring these two worlds together. So this is the main purpose of this session, like going through all the activities a dual right administrator would do, so people can understand what are the tasks that are done in finance in FNO, and which tasks will be done in Dataverse, Power Platform, etc. So before going into the details of the session, I will quickly introduce myself. I'm currently working at SA Global. I'm a senior technical architect, and I work, SA Global is a Microsoft partner. It's an ISV, and I am a member of the product team. So I work with the team that's developing verticals on top of FNO, but also Power Platform solutions and solutions for other Dynamics 365 apps. I think 23 years or so now, and always working with FNO. And in the last 2-3 years, I have been deeply involved in integration projects, and I have to say I'm an enthusiast of dual right. So to me, dual right and everything Microsoft is doing on bringing together FNO with everything else in the Dynamics world opens a lot of opportunities. So I'm a keen learner, so having this option of working with a tool that opens the door to something else is just great. Okay, so let's go with the agenda for today. So here's the list of topics for today. I have tried to cover all the activities that an administrator would do. So starting with environments, next with security, which is critical part of an administrator's work. Also being able to understand the logs, how to write speaks to us, and maintenance, also some maintenance tools that are available with dual right, sorry about that, which tools we can use to improve the way dual right is working. And I will end by going through some general troubleshooting, and also how to get help, because administrators always need help. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat window. And then at the end of the session, I'll leave a few minutes to go through them and try and answer as many as possible. Okay, so let's start with environment. On the environment side, I just want to talk a little bit about what Microsoft is doing in terms of getting together the environment management for FNO and the Power Platform. In one of the sessions earlier today about the virtual entities, this Power Platform convergence Microsoft is working on has also been mentioned. And I think it's really, really important that the way FNO and Power Platform environments are now getting closer and closer. So if you've been involved with Dual Ride for a while now, you probably have done some manual implementations of or manual installations of Dual Ride. So in the early days, everything related to Dual Ride, the setup of Dual Ride was all manual. So I have put together a screenshot of the Dual Ride screen with this health check. I'm sure you've seen it before. So this is just a summary of the manual tasks that were needed before. So when you have a lot of manual tasks, you have a lot of opportunities to make a mistake. So this was not a good setup for Dual Ride. But since then, as I said, Microsoft has been improving this experience. And now, when an FNO environment is provisioned by LCS, we have the option to also provision a Power Platform environment. So we can select here the Power Platform integration, and then we have the option to provision of our platform environment. And this environment will be automatically deployed with the dual ride solutions we need, also the virtual entity solutions, and all these steps that we used to do manually, like creating the application users, setting the security for them. So all that will be done for us. So we just need to go to the dual ride screen and finish up the last steps of the configuration with the wizard. So we reduce the risk of having issues with this. So with as part of this convergence between FNO and the Power Platform, on the Power Platform Admin Center, so this screenshot here is an environment I have linked with Dual Ride. This is a Dataverse environment. So we already have information here about what the FNO environment, this Dataverse environment is linked with. And I'm bringing this screenshot here because the purpose of Microsoft with all this convergence is to move the environment management to the Power Platform Admin Center. So I think that as administrators, even if we are like myself, more familiar with FNO, we should start using the Power Platform Admin Center as the central administration point. So if we want to do anything related to Dual Ride, I encourage you to start using the Power Platform Admin Center. Go there, and well, as the Dual Ride screen is actually available from FNO. You need to go to FNO, that's great, but you can navigate from the Power Platform Admin Center. Okay, so that was for environments, but to me, the real important aspect of administration is security. And with Dual Ride, we have a lot of different concepts involved in security because the Dual Ride security is built in FNO, but also Dataverse. So when the first important aspect about Dual Ride is the fact that the dual write integration is actually a service-to-service communication or integrations. That means that in order to send the information from FNO to Dataverse and vice versa, dual write uses application users, uses service accounts. So we do set up these application users in both environments. So we have our application users in FNO, and these application users are available on the Azure Active Directory applications. These are the application IDs. When we use this automatic deployment from LCS, these app IDs will be created automatically here on this screen. So we have two applications involved. This one here is used for the live synchronization. So this is just to actually transfer the data to Dataverse, from Dataverse to FNO. So when a user creates a record in Dataverse for a table that's integrated, so say we have a customers to account integration, when a user creates an account in Dataverse, then dual write will use this app ID to create the customer in FNO. And this second application ID is used for setting up tasks. So with dual write, there are a number of tasks that are performed during setup. As for example, when we enable a table map or when we stop a table map. So when all these tasks actually create records in tables in FNO, but also tables in Dataverse. And we need the user to do that. So this is the user that performs those kind of setting up tasks. In this screen in FNO, we assign each of these app IDs a user ID. So in this instance, they are assigned to the admin account. This is not a good practice, but I'll talk about this later on this section. Okay, so this is FNO. And here on my right-hand side, I have the Power Platform Admin Center. And again, here we have two application users created in Dataverse. These two application users have an app ID assigned. And again, one of them is used for the live synchronization. The other one is used for the setting up activities. So again, here, when a user creates a record, a customer in FNO, it will be created as an account in Dataverse using this app ID and this username. There are other concepts involved with security. So in FNO, we have with users. In Dataverse, we have the users, but we also have business units. And business units are a very important security concept in Dataverse. Business units allow us to define the security at the business unit level. When I say security, what I mean is for us, FNO developers or administrators, we could say that business units in Dataverse could be used for record level security. Okay. On a Dataverse environment, which has been set up with dual write, we have some predefined business units. First of all, we have a main business unit, And well, this is the main business unit that any Dataverse environment will have, irrespective of the fact that it's using dual-write. Now, any Dataverse environment, even if it's not using dual-write, will have this main business unit. But with dual-write creates one business unit per legal entity that we enable for dual-write. So in this instance, for example, I have three legal entities enabled for dual-write, and that's why these three business units have been automatically created. All of them, because business unit allow us to create hierarchy. As you can see here, all of them are children of this main business unit. So with business units, what happens is that, as you can see here, this is the customer groups table in Dataverse that is synchronized with the customer groups table in my F&O environment. In this table, we have the company, which is populated with a legal entity, but we also have this owning business unit. And as you can see here, this is also the business unit assigned to this legal entity, to USSI in this case. Therefore, with this business unit, in Dataverse, we can control which users can see the records of which business units. Another security concept in Dataverse are teams. We have two types of teams in Dataverse, owner teams and access teams. In this case, I'm talking about owning teams. Okay, so again, here, and in a Dataverse environment, we will have a team, which is like this main team that has the same name as the environment itself. And then when we enable legal entities for dual-write, automatically will be created two teams per legal entity. One for this account, so that's the account used for setting up, etc. And another one used for the live synchronization. By default, these two application users that are used in Dataverse belong to the main team. And we are going to use the teams to assign security roles. So to these application users, we will use this main team to define the security, but we can use the other teams to define a more granular security for Dataverse end users. If we look again at the customer groups table, we can see this owner here. So the owner, you can see some differences here. So these two records here, I have created them manually from Dataverse. So I am the owner because the ownership is at a user or team level. These records here have been created from F&O using dual-write. So these have the team assigned. So this team that is assigned to the live synchronization user. There is one exception because we know that in F&O we have some global tables, and by global I mean tables that don't have the legal entity, so are not bound to a company, are shared across all the companies. And in this instance, well, we cannot use the legal entity to find in Dataverse the related um, team. And we may also want to share this table across different teams in Dataverse. With dual right, we can define for these global tables what is the owning team. So this is on the dual right screen. So for example, the jobs table, this is a cross company table. So from dual right, I can say, well, I want to select a specific owning team. So the records for this table in Dataverse are created with this owning team. If we don't set up any specific team here, the main generic team will be used. So that's the default behavior of the synchronization of global tables. Okay, we also have, so up to here we've seen, as a recap, we've seen users, business units, teams. We now need to configure the permissions because so far we've talked about users and ways of grouping the users and the record. With regards to permissions, in FNO we have 3 levels of security artifacts. When it comes to dual right, there is no specific dual right role created in FNO, and there isn't any specific dual right duty created in FNO by default. There are a number of security privileges that gives us access to some data entities. I have highlighted here this one, dual right project maintain configuration. There is also a dual right project view configuration. This privilege provides access to, well, through an entity, through a data entity, to a table. This dual right project sync table, or well, the logical name is dual right project configuration. In this table, when in this table we can find the dual right table maps that are running. So when we are on our dual right screen and we click run and the map actually is running, this map will have 2 records in this table, dual right project configuration. And we are going to talk later about this table, but we can enable a number of properties for dual right on this table. So we can use this security privilege to access it through the entity. Also, the data entity has a number of methods or data actions that are involved in the dual right business logic. So if we want to control dual right with security roles and security artifacts, we should be using this privilege. This is a really important one. But as you can see here, there's not much predefined security. So this is if we want to have control of the permissions, this is something we have to create ourselves. Okay, so this is FNO. If we go to Dataverse, Dataverse controls the security as well with security roles. And there are 2 out of the box roles that are directly related with dual right. We have this dual right app user. This dual right app user is actually meant to be used with end users creating records in Dataverse that are involved with a dual write integration. So it's not meant to be used for these application users that are going to actually execute the integration. But if I am an end user in using an app in Dataverse or I don't know, creating accounts in Dynamics 365 Sales, then apart from all the security roles I would need to perform those actions, I'm also going to need this role because I'm going to have to use companies because the records that will integrate from Dataverse to FNO have a company because they need a legal entity. And I may need to access exchange rates. So these two tables are shared across multiple tables involved in dual write. So any end user, it's going to need to have this role assigned. And we also have this dual write runtime user. Again, this is very similar to the one we have in FNO. Because in Dataverse, there is also there is a dual write runtime configuration table, which has as well the table maps that are active, that are running. Again, this security role enables great access to that table. So when we can assign this role to end users that are going to be creating or updating data into tables integrated with dual write because the process is going to check if the table is enabled for dual write on this table and then trigger all the process to perform this integration. Okay, so these are all the elements related to security we have. How do we configure security at the moment? Talking about the users that are going to perform this integration, the application users. I'm not talking about the end users working on FNO or Dataverse on tables integrated with dual write. Well, in FNO, we will create a user to be assigned to this Azure Active Directory application ID. So we have these two application IDs involved, and we can create an FNO user better than using admin. We don't need to have an Active Directory, an Azure Active Directory account. In fact, it is best we don't have any because that way we will avoid this user accessing as a client. So we can make up an email address for this user. And then to this user, we need to assign at the moment system administrator role. Okay. In Dataverse, we need to assign as well the sysadmin role to the main business unit, and with that I mean to the main team, because the security role is assigned to the team, not the business unit. And also assign the system administrator role to these dual write application users. Okay, so this is how we go at the moment. But we administrators don't like to have a lot of users having sysadmin accounts, as you can imagine, because that's quite risky. So ideally, in finance and operations, we will have not one user, but two, one per application ID, because they're going to have to perform different actions. Just in case, remove the system user role. So it's not possible to open a session with this user, and then create two security roles, one for this setup and administrative tasks, and another one for the live integration that will allow access only to the data entities involved in the active table maps, as well as some as well the required store right config tables. Okay. This setup is not straightforward at the moment because, as we saw before, there aren't any predefined roles, and the privileges we already have don't give access to everything. So it needs a lot of manual setup. It can be done with a lot of trial and error. So yeah, this is something we are working on fine-tuning the security roles so we can have them ready, so we can easily use them in our multiple dual right implementations. But this is work in progress, but it's the ideal where we want to be. And the same on Dataverse. So in Dataverse, we would have as well custom roles, giving access to these tables that are being involved in the live synchronization, but also any dual right related tables and plugins and everything that's required to execute the integration business logic. But today, if you have any issues, speak with Microsoft. They will tell you assign sysadmin role. But again, it's not ideal, but it is something we hope it's improving. It's going to improve in the next few months, where we can work to improve it. Okay, so this was for security. And the next really important area where an administrator is involved is, well, understanding errors, understanding issues, and reading the logs to fix them. Dual right communicates with administrators in a few different ways. Well, the most obvious one is, well, in FNL, we get some direct errors or warnings uh, that sometimes are meaningful, sometimes not that much, but in many cases provide very good information. Also for activities that are performed from the dual right screen, like running the maps, running the initial synchronization, resuming maps. There's very good information on the activity log. So here you can download an ASCII file that will give you really a really good clue of what the issue is. There's another option with FNO, which is enabling the debugging mode for the dual right maps. To do so, we need to change a parameter on a table that doesn't have a form to be accessed from the UI. So the way we access it is using a data entity. So these are the data entities and table I mentioned before. So on this table, we have two records. So in this case, for the customer groups table map, there are two records. First one is for the create update activities. Second one is for the deletion activities. On this table, this parameter is debug mode, allow us to run the maps in debugging mode. So it will be writing information into a second table, sorry, this dual write error log. So the process would be, if I want to know what's wrong with my customer groups map, I need to use the Excel add-in, connect to this entity, set this is debug mode yes, and then create some customer groups or do the activity it is failing, and then check on this table using the table browser. Okay, so please be aware that the records on this table are deleted when we stop the dual write map. So if you set the debugging mode and then stop the dual write map, these records will be deleted. When you run the map again, new records will be created, and by default, this debug mode is no. So you'll have to do this action again. Also, be mindful about performance and this debugging mode. So only enable this when you, in the period you want to check what happens, and then restore it to no. And finally, an old friend, the event viewer. So this is only for tier 1 environments, but really useful information on the event viewer. Also very good informative messages if you want to learn how dual write is built, how it runs, how it executes, and what are the methods involved with it. So this is on the FNO side. On Dataverse, again, live errors. We can get really good information from here. And another method of getting information in Dataverse is using the plugin TraceLog. We need to enable it. So in order to do that, from the Power Platform Admin Center, we click on the environment, and then we need to navigate to this the environment itself and go to the legacy settings. So through advanced settings, select administration here, and now go to system settings. And here you will see a parameter under customization here to enable the plugin TraceLog. You can select all here or only issues or errors. So once this is done, you will have your TraceLog here under customization. So here again, if you have selected all, you will have not only errors, but also informative messages. So it's a good way to learn and understand how dual write works, because on these information messages, we get details such as, if we scroll down here, well, we can see what are the tables involved, what are the values, what's the payload for this integration, the message size. It's really, really good information for us. So as a summary, we have all these mechanisms for login in FNO and live errors and plugin TraceLog in Dataverse. So let's move on to maintenance. And one really important or a really interesting, I would say, option that dual write gives us is the ability to pause dual write maps. So when we have an active map, say in this instance, I have my payment schedules being synchronized between FNO and Dataverse. So if this is running and I need to perform some maintenance activities in my environment, if I stop my dual write map, then I could have users creating payment schedules in Dataverse, and then these payment schedules will not be synchronized. If I don't stop the map and my FNO environment is not working because I am updating it, for example, then the Dataverse users will not be able to create the payment schedules because they will get an error the system is not active. So the option that DualWrite provides is pausing the map. So we can pause the map so it's active but not running. And what it's doing is that any request or for DualWrite integration, in this instance, any payment schedule created or updated in Dataverse or FNO will be stored in a queue. So for the end users, the records will be created, but obviously, because the map is parsed, will not be transferred to the other environment. These records will be here queued, and it's really important this timestamp because when I am ready to enable this map again and I resume the execution, DualWrite will read this queue in order. So the operations are executed in the same order the users made it. Okay. There is one limitation though, because DualWrite only works for created and updated records while it's parsed, but it doesn't allow deletion. Okay, so be aware of this. This is not possible. And also when the DualWrite map is resumed, there may be some catch-up errors. These errors are recorded here. Again, really good information here. We can access the payload to check which record we're trying to create and troubleshoot it. And we can retry these messages again. Okay. Another really good administration tool for DualWrite are the alerts. And well, from the DualWrite screen, we can set up alerts. And it's very straightforward. So we just click here on alert settings. I have already some created here, but you will find create alert setting button. Just click on it, provide a name, and the alerts can be enabled, disabled, and then we can define an alert condition when the alert will be raised. So we have a number of error types. So the application error, for example, is when a validate field or a validate write methods execute and raise an error. But we have other errors here that we can control, like authorization errors, or when the service is not available, for example. So we can control all these different types. We can select one or many here, as many as we want. And then we can control as well how many times in a specific period of time we want this or we allow this to happen. before sending the alert. When the alert is raised, we can select that it automatically stops to our right, or we can select that it passes to our right. And also we can select a list of email addresses that will receive a message when the alert is raised. If you have set up your alert and an error happens, you will receive an email like this one. So you'll get the details of the alert. From here, you can navigate to your dual right screen. And you will also receive a similar email if you have selected to stop or pause the dual right map. Just one thing, and is that the alerts, so in order for the alerts to work, you need to stop and rerun the maps. So say you have already a number of dual right maps running and you want to set up the alerts, then you need to set up the alerts, stop the maps, and run them again. And that's because this information about the alerts, it's also stored in that dual right project configuration table. So we need to stop and run the maps again for this information to be actually recorded on that table. Another very typical task for an administrator is restoring DB backups. And well, many times restoring a DB backup from production to UAT or a test environment. Because the dual right configuration is stored on the database. So on the database, we have which database environment an FNO environment is linked with, and vice versa. Also, the dual right maps. There's information about the environments on the dual right maps records. So if we bring a production database to a UAT environment, we will be bringing all this information related to the production environment. So our FNO, if we bring an FNO database, our FNO environment will be actually connected to the Dataverse production environment. So when we restore DB backups on environment with dual right, then we need to stop all the table maps, unlink the environment. We can do this in one step as well in UAT test environments, because if we force the unlink, it will stop all the maps. Then clear the data from the key tables, link the environments again, and run our table maps. The tables that need some tidying up are the tables where data is created for the active dual right maps and with the environment information. Are these tables in FNO and this table in Dataverse. In some, so because if this is a task you're going to perform every time you restore a database, it's a good practice to have some sort of job, some sort of automated way of deleting this data when you do restore your DB backups. And well, just to finish with the activity, some general troubleshooting. I would like to recommend the table map health check for the dual right maps. But this table map health check is available for every map in dual right, but it only works when the map is running. And it's a really good tool when, for example, when we have an issue where some of the records don't seem to synchronize, because one of the pieces of information we can get here is the query. The query that's being executed for these integrations. We can define some filters for dual write. So it may be we have a record that's not actually it's not true for the filters. So with the query here on the table map health check, we can see very well what's exactly the query that's being executed. Apart from that, there are also some best practices messages here, really useful if we want to improve our dual write integration. And also another option is to disable the performance enhancement to fix issues with information that's not being synced. Please be very careful with this. And well, as administrators, I'm sure you don't like to hear you want to disable performance enhancements. Well, what the performance enhancements would actually do is that, well, say on this map, on the payment schedule map, the way dual write works, if we look at the F&O side, is if I have a payment schedule and then I modify a field on the payment schedule, then it triggers dual write. It comes to this table, this dual write project sync, and then gets the information for this map and then goes to the dual write project field configuration, where we have the details of all the fields involved in the dual write map. So if the performance enhancement is enabled, dual write will check if the field I have modified is part of the dual write map or not. If it's not, it will not trigger the integration with Dataverse. Okay? If all the fields that are selected in the maps stay the same, a message will not be sent to Dataverse. If we disable the performance enhancement, any change I make to the payment schedule will be sent as a message to Dataverse. When we need to do this? Well, we need to do this in some instances. For example, when I want to integrate virtual fields, for example, fields that are not actually in the Dataverse, that are methods on the data entity, okay, because they don't exist on the database. Therefore, dual write cannot check if they've been changed or not. So virtual fields, or when I have some field on a child table that's not triggering the integration, then we can come here using the Excel add-in and disable the performance enhancement specifically for that table map. And just to finish, the best, just a couple of recommendations on getting help. The dual write homepage, there's a section for troubleshooting, which is really good, and it's continuously growing. Microsoft is actively working on it, so you'll find any new information almost every week. And if you have any questions, any issues, please go to the dual write Yammer group. Very active, very knowledgeable people in there. The Microsoft engineers are also there, and they're really keen to help and are always available to help there. So just I think it's a private group, but request access if you're not there, and follow it because it's really, really good. And well, that's everything I wanted to tell you about dual right administration. I have not seen the chat, so I don't know if there are any questions.
Thank you, Cruz. So yes, thank you for that in-depth review of and sharing all your experience of administrating and configuring dual right. I think you've kind of gone above and beyond in many respects, going into security and making other considerations with legal entities. So a lot of people ignore that, and you've really addressed that. So thank you so much, Cruz, for kind of taking it to that level of detail. There aren't any other questions because I think you've kind of really, enlightened a lot of people really before they take that journey. So I just want to thank you so much for sharing that information and being available today.
Thanks to you for having me today. If someone has any question later, just drop me a message, or I'm available on LinkedIn, so just I'd love to see you there as well.
Yeah, please connect with Cruz on LinkedIn. Cruz, if you could share your connection details, that'd be really helpful as well.
Yes, absolutely will do. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cruz.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks to you.
Thank you very
Cheers.
much.
Bye.
Awesome.
Bye.